Well, hello guys, and welcome to Lincoln, Montana. It has been 2 weeks of me being on the road, and I think I finally got some time to sit and kind of update you guys on everything that I have done in the past 2 weeks. As we all know, I started this journey about 3 weeks late, and that really at first seemed to put me behind. I was super frustrated that I hadn't been out on the road yet. But ultimately, everything works out for a reason, right? And thankfully, I was able to navigate and figure out a lot of the issues I was going to have with my bike and trailer while I was still in Pullman. Now I'm 200 plus miles away from Pullman in the heart of the Rocky Mountains in Montana, and I have one mountain pass left to get over before I head into the plains of Montana. After I got most of those hiccups figured out in Pullman, and being I was 3 weeks behind schedule, my friends Duff and Sid budgeted so that Duff was able to drive me from Pullman all the way up to Plummer, Idaho, at the head of the Trail of the Coeur so that I could start my journey there. And ultimately, 3 weeks late, that is where I started my journey. Now, the Trail of the Coeur was an adventure all on its own. The very first day, from Plummer to Harrison, I did about 14 miles before my entire back sprocket cassette came apart on the trail about a mile away from town. When I was finally able to walk the bike into town that additional mile, the bike shop in Harrison had already closed. The campsite there was full, and I had really no option of what to do aside from just kind of find a spot to bed down. Now, knowing the rules on the Trail of the Coeur d'Alenes, you're not supposed to camp anywhere off of the trail, right off the trail. So I didn't do that. So what I did is I took a big risk and I just kind of camped out in front of the public library that night in Harrison. That night, before I bedded down in the library yard, I had an excellent conversation with Xavier, who ended up being the head chef at the Drift there in Harrison. We talked all about the bears and wildlife coming into Montana. He gave me some advice for where I might need to camp. We had a good conversation about just camping out there and everything in the whole journey that I'm on right now. And he told me that the next morning, after I got my bike all fixed, if I was able to, before I headed out of town, stop by the Drift and he would get me a free cup of coffee. So after we had our conversation, I bedded down with Shadow for the night there in the library. We didn't pitch a tent or anything. I just laid out my ground tarp and my sleeping bag and slept right there on the ground, kind of tucked back behind my biking cart. It was still pretty out in the open, like anybody driving by the library could have looked over and saw me sitting there. There were outlets out there, which was a good opportunity for me to get a good jump start on charging all my devices before I really hit the trail. And there was water there, so Shadow and I were able to make some of our food just fine. The next morning when I woke up, I headed straight to the bike shop. And when I got to the bike shop, I price checked a new sprocket and everything, and my buddy Kid, I appreciate you, homie, he sent me the money to be able to pay for a whole new sprocket. While I was talking to him on the phone, trying to figure out how to send the funds to me, the guys at the bike shop there in Harrison completely put on the new sprocket on my back wheel, got the back wheel all back on my bike before I was even ready to pay for the sprocket. So excellent customer service there, fantastic customer service. If you're ever in Harrison and you need bike repairs, go to that bike shop. They will take care of you. Got the sprocket all repaired, got all loaded up on the bike. Shadow and I started to head out, and I went and I hit the Drift to talk to Xavier about that free cup of coffee. We had a little conversation. He kind of gave me a tour of the little restaurant, and then he gave me my cup of coffee, and we went our separate ways. So after I got that cup of coffee, I couldn't really ride my bike holding a cup of coffee, so I was like, okay, let's go back to the library. We'll sit there, connect to the Wi-Fi, update everybody that I got the bike fixed, and then I'm about to hit the trail again. And while I was sitting there, So my bike, to preface, my bike is too heavy to use the standard kickstand. The first night when I left the house that I was living in Pullman, I was setting up the bike and everything just leaned the bike so far that it snapped the kickstand right off. Well, in navigating all of the problems in Pullman, my buddy Duff told me to take the kickstand off of one of his bikes that he had found by the dumpster there in Pullman, which I did, but the bike was still too heavy for that, and it just kind of flexed the kickstand out and then the bike would fall over. So navigating that, we came up with a different solution, and Duff had these massive heavy-duty aluminum tent stakes. It's nice because being aluminum, they're extremely light, but the way they're designed, they're also extremely strong. So what I do is I drop these through the slots on my pedal and then kind of lean the bike against these, and these act as my kickstand. Well, while I was drinking my cup of coffee and updating everybody, these bent like a taco the plastic pedals that I had on my bike, completely ruining the pedals right then and there. Had to do another repair. Thank the gods I was right there in Harrison, and they have an excellent bike shop. Another friend of mine, Madison, she and I were talking, and she sent me the money to go and get a new set of pedals. So thank you to her for that, and I am so grateful for that. I'm grateful for all of the help that I have gotten this entire time. Got the pedals fixed, got out of Harrison, and I biked the like 12 miles to the campsite at Rainy Hill, which is just a free campsite that people can go. And so Shadow and I went there, and we stayed 2 nights at the Rainy Hill campground, just because I wanted to decompress from the stress before leaving from the trip. I wanted to decompress from the stress on that first day on the trip, and I just felt taking a couple days at the Rainy Hill campground, just being in nature and not connected to anything at all, would be the perfect time to decompress. And I had a fantastic time there at Rainy Hill. The second night I was there, actually, I had a big American bullfrog, which are an invasive species in Idaho, hop right into my campsite. Now my buddies have joked about that. Oh, you didn't cook him up? You didn't have frog legs? I don't really have it in me to take the life of another creature outside of fishing and clamming and shellfish. Just because growing up I never really got the opportunity to do so. Always had hunting and stuff waved over my head by my father, but never really got the opportunity to go. So at 30 years old now, I don't really know that I have the heart to take an animal's life outside of what I have experience doing, which is fish, shellfish, crabs, shrimp, seafood. Seafood I can do all day long because my entire life I grew up doing seafood. But I saw this American bullfrog as an opportunity to shoot a little video and educate people on the American bullfrogs. And the first night there, I heard them everywhere. And I didn't realize that they were bullfrogs because I thought they were some sort of bird swimming around out on the lake, like a loon or something. I didn't know what they were. It sounded like there were cows out on the lakes, just randomly, "Mah, mah, mah," and then in the distance somewhere else, "Mah, mah, mah." The second night I got a little bit of phone service, and I was like, what is mooing out on the water? Come to find out, it's an American bullfrog. And probably like 20 minutes later, the one that I saw hopped into my campsite. That was a cool experience. From Rainy Hill, I did 23 miles out to Pinehurst, and I was completely exhausted doing that 23 miles. I ended up having to take a nap on the trail that day. At one point I drank so much water that my belly was just full of water and just heating up, and ended up throwing up all of that water. It was a whole exhausting day, so when I got to Pinehurst, I spent 2 nights in Pinehurst as well. While I was in Pinehurst, I met a fantastic human being, Cody. I was not expecting to meet anybody. I got into Pinehurst absolutely exhausted. It's probably like 9 o'clock at night, and I pulled up to the city park right there as you enter the town. And I sat down at one of the benches and was looking for the campsite in town. Now this human being, Cody, he rolls up and he's like, "Hey man, you doing okay?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm just charging up my phone and I'm looking for a campsite. I'm actually on a crazy road trip biking from Washington to Virginia." He was like, "Oh no shit, that's badass, dude. You are a badass." I was like, "Thank you, man. I don't feel like one because I'm exhausted, but I appreciate the compliment." He was like, "Well, is there anything I can do for you to help you out tonight? Like anything at all?" I was like, "Honestly, man, if I could use a hot meal, if you could swing that for me, that would help out a lot because I really don't have the energy to pull out my cooking stuff and boil water and make one of my freeze-dried meals." He's like, "A hot meal is easy." He's like, "Why don't you come over to my place? My family's gone for the day, so why don't you come over to my place? I'll make you a nice big old bowl of venison shepherd's pie," and I think it was actually elk burger in the shepherd's pie. We did that. I went to his house and he made me the shepherd's pie. And then while we were there, we had a good conversation and got a little elevated, if you know what I mean. And then he proceeded to load me up with goodies. He gave me Cliff Bars. He gave me slices of the candied mango, essentially. He gave me freeze-dried strawberries, freeze-dried blueberries with gummy bears. He gave me some excellent salt to be able to use in my meals. He gave me just a whole bunch of goodies. And then as night was rolling, he was like, I gotta get ready to go to bed because I gotta be up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Why don't we go see if we can't find you a spot to camp down? So we did that. We went out and I loaded up the bike and we walked into town a little ways and found a little foresty area. And he was kind of showing me the different areas to camp. Ultimately, it was getting too dark for me to see and I couldn't really decide on an area. I was looking around and I was like, oh, this might be a good area. I might just have to bed down and pitch the tent in the morning. But as I was deciding that, off in the distance, a thunderstorm started. The lightning was flashing, the clouds were forming, and it was very clear that they were making their way directly towards us. So Cody, being the phenomenal human being he was like, hey man, why don't you come crash on my shop floor tonight, and then you'll have to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning when I go to work, but then you can go from there and you can go pitch your tent or head out depending on what you want to do. So that next morning I woke up at 4 o'clock and I went and I pitched my tent there in the little forest in Pinehurst and spent that next day there. So after my 2 rest days in Pinehurst, I headed out. After I left Pinehurst that day, I did about another 10 miles, pushed through Kellogg, Idaho, and I made it all the way to Osborne, where I then pushed just to the outskirts and camped under the stars in Osborne. That day I did a whole lot of biking. I almost lost my puff coat. Thankfully some workers on the trail that do pruning and check the toilet bathroom were coming behind me and saw the rolled up puff coat on the trail. And I ran into them later on down the trail, so thank the gods that happened, because not having my puff coat would have sucked while I was in the mountains here in Montana. The next morning from Osborne, I made the push all the way to Mullen, Idaho, completing the Trail of the Coeur d'Alene. It took me exactly a week, with 3 of the 7 days being rest days, to get to Mullen, Idaho, and do the entire 73 miles of the Trail of the Coeur d'Alene. When I got to Mullen, I sat at the library for a little bit and charged my phone with one of my battery packs and kind of updated everybody, hey, I'm done with the trail. So I went to the gas station, I got carbs, and while I was paying for my stuff, I asked the gas station attendant if there was a bike service or something in the area that I could call to help me get a ride over Lookout Pass and into Montana. The gas station attendant told me that there was somebody that they could call, but she didn't have the number, so she called her friend to have her friend call the guy. And while we were waiting on that guy to respond, another phenomenal human being who actually works in Mullen and lives on the other side of the pass in Montana, it was literally his Friday before his week off when he went into the gas station, and the gas station attendant said, hey, could you give someone a ride over to Montana? And he said, you know what, why not? His name was Jason, and I gave him a little joke about wearing a ski mask and carrying around a machete, and he joked with me about being a psycho hitchhiker, none of which is true. We were just good laughs, and it gave us a chance to kind of feel each other out and have a good time. Well, over Lookout Pass, we had a good conversation, and I was asking him about the truck stop he was going to drop me off at, asking if they had a shower, a place that I could bed down for the night and everything. And he was like, you know what, man, we've had a good conversation. I've been able to feel you out. I don't think you're a crazy hitchhiker. I don't think you mean any wrongdoing by me. Why don't you come by the house? You can take a shower. You can do a load of laundry. I'll even make you a fat dinner. And you can have a good night before you head out on your journey tomorrow. So we did that. We went to his house. I took a shower. And after I got out of the shower, I started my laundry. And he's like, hey, you know what, before we have dinner, while your laundry's going, let's get in the side-by-side and I'll go rip around in the mountains and we'll show you the mountains here in Montana a little bit, which we did. That was an amazing experience. I enjoyed it. He's got a big old side-by-side that him, his German Shepherd, Huck, myself, and Shadow were all able to load up into this side-by-side, and we went and ripped around in the mountains for a good couple hours before we then hit the local gas station there where he lives. And that local gas station, I like to say, is like a saloon, because it's a convenience store, it's a little bar, and it's a casino, all built into one little tiny building. It was the craziest thing I've ever experienced coming from Washington. There's nothing like that I've ever seen in Washington anyway. And it really felt kind of like I was in the Midwest. Where's my horse? I'm about to ride off into the sunset. We had a couple drinks at the bar. We talked to some friends, and a friend and neighbor of his, Lisa, gave me 20 bucks to help out on my journey, which I am grateful to her for that. Thank you, Lisa. And then after we had a couple drinks, we went back to his house. He made me a fat steak dinner. I had the opportunity. I got a little elevated on his back porch before I ate, and then we hung out. After we ate, he let me crash in his guest room, and then the next morning made me a fat breakfast of eggs, bacon, and huckleberry pancakes before he then drove me the 90 miles to Missoula, Montana, and gave me that boost because he was going that day to see his girl and take his girl to a Post Malone and Jelly Roll concert. If it were not for that boost that he gave me to Missoula, I would not be here right now where I am in Lincoln. I would still be on my journey here. But he gave me that 90-mile boost to Missoula. He gave me some goodies to take with me. He also gave me a means to protect myself against any bears or cougars should I run into any predators outside of the bear spray that I already had. So he gave me that 90-mile boost to Missoula. We said our goodbyes. I thanked him for everything because it was a phenomenal experience. After we said our goodbyes, I biked all the way from Missoula, 27 miles to the Potomac Valley. I don't know how I did the 27 miles, don't ask me, but I did. And that night I bedded down in a little parking lot that locals there often use as like a park and ride or a ride share. One of the locals even told me that sometimes when people's cars break down, they'll camp there overnight. So I was like, okay, that seems like a safe spot to bike down. To bed down. The next morning, I was absolutely exhausted from the 27 miles, but I figured I couldn't stay there another night just because of where it was. It wasn't actually a campground or anything. So I loaded Shadow and I up, and we biked another like 5 or 6 miles down the road. Not without issue though. I was absolutely exhausted. The 6 miles was entirely uphill, and by the time I was able to leave, it was already like 75, 80 degrees. So in like half of that distance, I had drank most of the water Shadow and I had left. Well, he had drank a lot of the water too. And I had found a spot in the shade to rest, so we stopped there, pulled the bed out, and I just kind of laid down. I know sometimes that police officers will do courtesy rides in dire situations when someone needs help, so I called the Montana State Highway Patrol non-emergency line to see if I could get some help getting up to the next campsite or what have you. Turns out that they couldn't give me a ride just because of the amount of gear I had and the amount of stuff that they have in the back of their trucks, which I completely get, but they were awesome enough to send out an officer, and he was able to go down to the local gas station and pick Shadow and I up 2 gallons of water, which really helped the push to get to where we went to next. When he brought me the 2 gallons of water, he gave me a whole bunch of advice. He said, hey, there's a day-use fishing site up ahead about a mile. Once you crest the hill, you'll ride down a little ways and it'll be right on the left-hand side. You can stop and rest there for the day. You can jump in the river and cool off if you need to. It's just a good spot to relax. And if you find out at the end of the day that you're too exhausted to even push on any further, nobody's going to really bother you. You're fine to just camp down there for the night and push on the next morning or the next day. Ultimately, I was too exhausted by the time I got there, so I did camp down there for the night. And ultimately, the next morning, Shadow and I woke up and we kind of packed most of our stuff up, but I was still exhausted, so I was like, you know what, dude, we're gonna hang out here, we're gonna play in the river, we're gonna rest during the day, and then tonight when it cools off, we'll make the push even further and go to a campsite or something down the road. So we hung out there until about 8 o'clock at night when I had looked at my weather and saw that there was a thunderstorm that was going to be hitting at about 10. So I was like, okay, crap, we gotta go. We gotta make this push. I can't stay here when the storm rolls in. And I pushed the additional like 5 miles down the road. Some of it I had to walk, some of it I was able to bike, but I pushed the additional 5 miles down the road. And as I was coming into Clearwater, I believe it was the same officer. Officer Andrew Beatty, I appreciate everything. If you are watching this, Officer Andrew Beatty, or anybody that knows Officer Andrew Beatty of the Montana Highway Patrol, please just pass on the message to him how grateful I am for his service, how peaceful he was as an officer to talk to, and just how great it was to kind of have that introduction to the police force of Montana. It was an incredible help, and I think it was him that pulled up next to me and he said, hey, there's a campground up ahead. You need to get there as fast as you can because there's a heavy wind and thunderstorm rolling in and it's going to be here in a matter of minutes. I said, I appreciate it. He told me where the little campsite was off to the side. I hauled butt down the road and I got to that campsite. Come to find out it was $18 a night to camp there. And at that time, I did not have any money to pay for the campsite. So I was like, well, crap. So I pushed on that additional like half a mile maybe to the Clearwater rest stop at mile marker 32. And right as we rolled in to the rest stop and I got the bike all parked under one of the gazebos and shadow all sheltered, the wind started picking up, the storm hit, and it was just a wild time. The winds were so heavy, it felt like I was in a windstorm right on Whidbey Island again, where I grew up, with those winds coming straight off the Strait of Juan de Fuca. It was crazy and wild, and me being the photographer with a dream to one day also storm chase, I took it as an opportunity to go out in the wind, and I've been in winds like that growing up on Whidbey, so the wind didn't bother me. And being as a photographer, one of my dreams is to one day storm chase. I took it as an opportunity to take some pictures. I pulled out the camera and I tried taking some pictures of the lightning storm. Flashes were few and far between, so I didn't get many opportunities, but I did get this incredible photo. And I just knew right then that, like, yeah, I'm definitely going to enjoy doing these storm photos. So fingers crossed to get into experience. Mind you, I hope I'm camped down when I experience them, but fingers crossed I get to experience some pretty cool thunderstorms and stuff as I head over the plains of Montana and into North Dakota, and as I continue my journey across the country. So I took that picture, and then the storm rolled over. It went from north to south, and I'm pretty sure that same storm blew over my little brother and little sister down in southern Idaho. The next morning I woke up and my friend Cece in Pullman had sent me $50 to continue paying for the piano I sold him, and so having that $50 in my account, I went and I pulled some money and I biked the 2 miles out past the gas station, a little out of the way, off of 200. It was on, I think, Highway 81 or something like that, to Harper's Lake campground, and Shadow and I spent the day and the night there. Absolutely beautiful area. Clearwater River ran through there, and I actually got Shadow to actually jump in the river and swim with me after I got all excited and did some swimming. But it was a good little rest and recuperate day, and I spent a lot of time by the river because I love the river, and we just rested, recuperated, and then the next morning we biked back to the gas station at Clearwater, got a couple sandwiches, went to the Clearwater rest stop again, ate those sandwiches, topped up our water, and then pushed out onto the road. And I was not expecting to. I made a joke to my sister, hey, manifest that I'm gonna go through another portal again and bike another like 20 miles. And push comes to shove, I did 30. I did 30 that day, and I went from mile marker 32 to mile marker 62. I got to about 27 miles, and I found a good spot that like overlooked everything, and I was like, oh, I could bed down and camp here. This would be a good spot to camp. But I kind of just want to push on and get as close to Lincoln as I can, because once I get to Lincoln, which is where I'm at right now, I will be able to probably catch a ride over Rogers Pass and into eastern Montana and just be completely out of the mountains and on the next leg of my journey. So I've made the additional 3-mile push to mile marker 62, where I was like, okay, I've done 30 miles. I did not expect to do anything close to this today, and I bedded down right there on the side of the highway right next to mile marker 62. There's a good chunk of shoulder there, like probably a good like 30 feet of shoulder that goes off of the highway down to like a rancher or farmer's field there that's fenced off. It had a sign, private property, stay out. So I made sure to not go past the fence, but I stayed right there on the shoulder. That spot was probably, of all the spots that I've camped down in this journey, was probably the sketchiest spot. And what I mean by sketchy is it was no issue camping down next to the highway. I've done that on multiple nights here. What was sketchy about it is I was in the middle of a 30-mile wildlife crossing area off of Montana Highway 200, and right across the highway from where I was laying my bed down was immediate forest leading right up the mountainside. So if ever there was a chance while I was here in the mountains of Montana that I was going to encounter a bear or a cougar, I think that night would have been it. Thankfully, I was only woken up at like 3 o'clock in the morning by a deer out in the field, and that was no issue. But I woke up the next morning, and while it is still summertime, it's the middle of summer, it was freezing when I woke up. Like, there was a thick layer of just dense fog right above the ground everywhere out there. I mean, I had no cell service, so I didn't even know what the temperature was, but knew I needed my puff coat even over my hoodie and my sweatpants and everything. And I put my puff coat on and I slunk back down into my sleeping bag, and I laid there from like 6:30 in the morning till almost 9 o'clock in the morning, until the sun rose up and finally got above the clouds enough to warm that valley that I was in. Well, by the time the sun broke the clouds and warmed everything up, I quickly loaded up my ground tarp and my sleeping bag into the cart, got Shadow's bed all loaded back up, tied my bags back down to my bike, and we hit the road and made the like 8-9 mile push from there to here in Lincoln, where I spent all of yesterday pretty much sitting outside their public library using Wi-Fi, uploading videos to my TikTok and my Instagram, because right now it's going to be hard to upload things while I'm just out on the road. I don't have good data. Only having 8 gigabytes of data, this high-speed data this month, I burned through it like that. Now I can't really upload anything unless I have Wi-Fi. Once I leave here in Lincoln, I don't know when my next video is going to be uploaded, but I'm going to edit this video and I'm going to get this posted tonight. Anyway, I sat there and I uploaded the videos, and I was kind of trying to figure out getting something to eat that wasn't using the few of the freeze-dried meals that I have left. And my buddy Adam, he was like, you know what, man, I can spare 25 bucks. And so he sent me 25 bucks over Cash App so that I was able to go to the local grocery store here in Lincoln and get a loaf of bread, 2 boxes of Pop-Tarts, a jar of peanut butter, and 8 packs of ramen, so that I have some like heavy carbs to consume, because I am burning a lot of calories. I'm also sculpting the crap out of my body on this journey, and I didn't even notice it, but when I took a shower last night, my abs are coming in formed. I'm gonna be ripped by the end of this trip. I should also clarify that while I was in Pinehurst, jump back a little ways, while I was in Pinehurst, Cody and I kind of estimated the weight of my bags and the weight of the gear in the cart and everything. Come to find out, with Shadow and I, and all my gear and the bike and the cart and everything weighs about 450 pounds that I'm biking everywhere. So I am getting a workout in every day that I'm biking. And when I did my 30 miles the other day, plus the 8 yesterday here into Lincoln, my legs are like, yeah, we can keep going, I think. Where I was really feeling it was up here in my shoulders. My shoulders were really getting me yesterday. So Adam sent me the money, I went and I got my groceries, and then Shadow and I went back to the library because they got outlets outside the library there. I plugged in my power strip, charged up some devices, and then in the back of I've got a little log journal. I've been keeping track of everything as I go. While my devices were charging, I decided to make a sign. I made a sign in the back of my log journal here so that I can use it at any mountain passes or anything that I need, but it just essentially, it says there exactly what you see here: biking Washington to Virginia, can we catch a ride over the pass? And then it's got my social information so people can follow along if they want to. By the time my devices were done charging, it was already too late to head to the gas station and ask for a ride. So ultimately, I started looking on maps trying to find an area where I could camp for the night. Everywhere that I could camp free for the night, I would have to bike 10 or 11 miles out of town off of the main highway here. And with 450 pounds of gear, that is a insane feat to do just for a bed for the night. So I shot my shot by making a post on TikTok, Instagram, even here on YouTube Reels, asking if anybody would be able to help me out and send me like 25 bucks so that I could pull money and pay for a campsite right here where I'm at in Hooper Park in the center of Lincoln. I really wasn't expecting to get any help, but the answer is always no if you don't ask, so I figured I would put it out there and I would ask for help. If I didn't get any help, I was going to risk it and I was going to go to one of the local parks out back by the river, and I was going to bed down there for the night. And right as I was packing up to go do that, I got a notification that a Michael had sent me $25. And I was like, I can go pull some money, I can go camp down for the night and everything. And no sooner did I get that notification, I got another notification from a Vanessa who had sent me another $30 to my Cash App to help me out. I almost started crying standing there right in the library. I was not expecting, if I got help, I was thinking maybe I was gonna get like 25 bucks at most from several different people totaling the 25 bucks. But I got 55 bucks, which gave me, getting a total of 55 bucks from both Michael and Vanessa, allowed me to get my campsite here, allowed me to have some money to get some hot food today, to not have to utilize my supplies, and it really just ultimately helped me out. Well, I get to the campsite here, and I look at the sign and I'm getting ready to fill out the information, and come to find out, online they tell you it's either $20 for a dry site or $30 for a site with an electrical. I didn't need a site with electrical. If I need to charge devices, the library's right there. But I get to the sign where I pay for my site, and it says that if you don't have an RV and you're just putting a tent down on the site, it's only $15 a night. So I was like, oh, okay, sweet, that's awesome. That gives me the ability to put $30 in this envelope and pay for 2 nights and have last night and today to just rest and relax before I get back on the road and try and get a ride over the pass tomorrow. So that's what I did. This campsite, it has showers, it has a nice bathroom, so I took advantage of being able to take a shower. I might go take another one tonight, honestly, just because I don't know when the next time I'm going to get to take a shower is. I am a person that really enjoys their shower. I do have a little camping solar shower that I can use if I'm by a water source. I don't know how often I'm going to be next to water while I'm traveling through eastern Montana. Fingers crossed, it's often. It has been a wild 2 weeks, and all I have left tonight is to bed down here and rest for the rest of the night, and then tomorrow pack up and at some point head to the gas station here in Lincoln and see if I can't get a ride over the pass. I'm gonna see if I can get a ride not just over the pass but also all the way to Great Falls, if anybody is going all the way out to Great Falls tomorrow. If not, I'm gonna take a ride as far east as I can. My buddy Adam, who hunts here regularly in Montana, says that the stretch of Highway 200 from the end of Rogers Pass all the way to Great Falls is the worst stretch of 200 in the whole crossing of eastern Montana. So if I can get a ride to Great Falls, that would take another great leg off of my journey, and also would give me a quick jump start into having towns pretty much every like 15 miles or so from each previous town, rather than having like 40 to 60 miles between towns. But I think that pretty much covers everything here. I think Shadow and I are going to go take a little walk. I'm going to shoot some B-roll here in this town and have some nice footage to overlay over this so you're not just staring at my face while I'm talking the whole time. And then I will be back on the road tomorrow. But I figured today was a good day to sit and update everybody in a large scale format to post to YouTube. Yeah, update everybody as to what's been going on in the last 2 weeks. I'm going to try and make these bigger vlogs more frequently and take more video while I'm out in eastern Montana. The only struggle is it's kind of a pain to stop and park the bike and disconnect my camera bag and pull my camera bag off my bike and pull my camera out and take some clips and talk to the camera and then load the camera back up, back on the camera bag, back on the bike, so on and so forth. I need to get better at it because part of this whole process is I want to document this, and ultimately I want to be a wildlife and nature photographer and videographer, making my own documentaries and things like that. And I can't do that if I'm not using the gear, but I have been doing a lot of just filming little mini vlogs on my Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube Reels. But now we're gonna have a like 20-30 minute vlog that is going to be posted just to YouTube. And I want to do more of these more frequently so that I can utilize TikTok and Instagram and Reels for short form content, answering questions, talking to you guys about the trip, things like that. These vlogs are also going to be the big updates for things because, like I said, right now with being burnt through all of my high-speed data, I can't upload any videos, so I'm just going to have to do a lot of editing when I can and posting videos when I can. So yeah, that's the update, guys, and until then, I'll see you in the next video.